Hello, I'm Molly, a licensed insolvency practitioner at Parker Walsh. And today I'm going to be discussing what happens to your director's loan in an insolvent liquidation scenario. So what is a director's loan? Well, it can be defined two ways. One is a director's loan where the company owes you money. That might be for capital that you put in, or it might be your own money that you put in as and when to assist with the funding. Or it could be an overdrawn director's loan account, and this is where you owe money to the company. And that could be that you've taken money out and there wasn't sufficient profit to declare a dividend at the end of the year to clear the loan account, so you owe money to the company. Now, if the company goes into liquidation, it doesn't automatically get rid of either the director's loan or the overdrawn director's loan. Both survive the liquidation. So if you are owed money by the company in a liquidation, you are still a creditor, i.e. you are owed money, and you rank equally, pari passu, to all the other trade creditors. So you don't get a preferential status, nor are you at the bottom of the pile, as it were. You rank shoulder to shoulder with the other trade creditors, so such as suppliers or HMRC for corporation tax, utility companies, those sort of types of creditors. You would rank the same with those. What you would need to do is speak to your proposed liquidator. So someone like myself would be able to advise you as to whether or not you're going to receive any money back on what you are owed. They'll be able to tell you that quite easily. Okay, so the other scenario is an overdrawn director's loan account. So that is where you owe money to the company. And again, that does survive. So you would still owe money to the company once it goes into liquidation. With your proposed liquidator, you should have a strategy before it goes into liquidation so that there are no surprises later down the line. You want to know, going into the liquidation, how that loan account is going to be dealt with. Once the company's in liquidation, you can't come out of it because you don't like how the liquidators treated the loan account. So always have a strategy with the liquidator, someone like myself, before it goes into liquidation. But essentially that money has to be repaid. I mean, if you have it in full and available, you should be paying it in full straight away. But most of the time you don't. The money's been spent. I know with the directors that I deal with, the money that they took out was a necessity. They've had to pay the mortgage or rent. They may have a family to support. They have to pay for food, children's clothing, etc. And you can't just give that money back. So speak to the liquidator and explain the situation, that you're not able to repay it. They will obviously want evidence of that. They will carry out their own due diligence, as do I. We would look into whether or not you can repay it, or whether or not you've got any assets that you could sell to repay it. One of the most common assets is obviously equity within the residential home, and that would all depend on the size of the overdrawn loan account. Let's a bit of common sense here. If you only owe, say, £1,000 in a director's loan, it's not as if we're going to look at the equity in your house. But if you do have a substantial director's loan account that you have to repay to the liquidation estate, and it is substantial, and there is substantial equity in your house, and you have no other means of repaying it, then you need to be discussing that with your liquidator. What I would always recommend is communicate with the proposed liquidator. It doesn't have to be a hostile situation. That's not productive for anyone involved. Just explain the situation to them, their worries, and see what they can propose. And then hopefully you will come to an amicable solution, and it is resolved. But if you are worried that your company is insolvent and it might be going into liquidation, and the one thing that's holding you back from taking action is that overdrawn loan account because you don't know how it's going to be dealt with, get in touch with someone like myself. We can just have a confidential, no obligation, free chat. I'll explain how it works. I'd look at your personal situation and explain what I would do if I were the liquidator, and then it'll give you the information and you can make an informed decision as to going forward. But it's better to do that than bury your head in the sand. That can make it a lot worse. So as I've said, if there is a loan account, it will survive in the liquidation. You will be owed that money, but you need to speak to the liquidator as to whether or not you're going to get any money back. And if it's an overdrawn loan account, i.e. you owe money to the company, speak to the liquidator in regards to a strategy on how to repay it. Okay, I hope that's helped. Thank you.